Hello, my lovely collective. Wendy Joy, Love and Light. I've been doing a lot of soul searching and a lot of digging down deep within the inner parts of me and connecting with my higher guides, my higher consciousness, and even to the divine, to Barbella, herself, the first thought, if you will, that emanated from the monad. But what I've come to realize is that there's been different periods in time that the earth has gone through where there's been chaos and debauchery, and then there's been bliss and peace. And now we're right back to the chaos and debauchery again. And I believe that all the manipulation that the governments of the last few hundred years, we'll say five, we'll be generous and say the last 500 years, right? Regardless of what calendar, you're looking at, because the dates, the time, everything was manipulated by these same groups of individuals. And they passed their trickery within their own line. And it just continued, and it never stopped. And now we find ourselves in a position where not only does the trickery, far extend from the ones who originally started this debauchery, right? And I'm not talking about the demigod, and I'm not talking about the archons, because they're actually lessons in order to test us, to help us achieve, to figure out how to migrate back into the spiritual essence that we descended from. But I'm talking about the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki and the different subtitles that came with or followed or preceded, whether you want to consider the Greys or the reptiles or, whatever as part of, as ascendants of, if you will, of the Anunnaki, or in, relationship with, it doesn't quite matter, because now on top of that, we now have to deal with the risen fallen angels. The angels that, picked a fight with the Creator, and then a third of them who bound together in order to, I don't know, provide allegiance, maybe. I don't know. It doesn't even matter. But all I do know is that they have risen, and they are everywhere. And they are in our government, they are in our movies and TV, like the celebrities, they're in our music, they're even in athletics, they're just everywhere. So anywhere that you could get some type of praise or recognition or reward for even talent, right? But used in a negative form, because the talent that they possess, although, is bountiful, right, and abundant, it's also not serving the highest good. And it's also serving the lesser demon gods, if you will. And they put themselves in a position to, I guess they're mad. They're really hurt, probably very hurt, that they weren't able to get the Creator or the monad or the plenoma, the highest realms, to agree that man, right, human beings, women too, should be subservient to them. They thought that they should have more than we. And when they found out that we hold more power than they didn't dig it. They didn't dig it at all. And they created that revolt. And that got them exiled. And they were dropped down to the waters below. And that's here. That's on earth. And sometimes I have to go backwards and stop myself, because this isn't hell. Hell is beneath us. So what that means to me is that, yes, they were, cast down past the ground and, punished, if you will, for their terrible wrongdoings, maybe given a time to think about what they did and how it worked out, and if it actually, benefited their higher good, or if they're just mad and kicking their feet still, and they didn't really learn anything or gain any value. So for that, I say that they're hurt. But what they're doing is they're creating mass chaos, as much of it as they possibly can, while they try to figure out how to break free from this enclosure, because they can't do it. And when they try, they only get so far, and then they get bounced back. And then if you notice, the chaos or the terror that they provide onto humanity becomes even stronger. And when we realize that we have more power than they do, and that we can bring back the glory days, and that we can resurrect the earth and all of her properties in order to benefit us, we don't need to pay for anything. She gives us food. She gives us energy. We can harness into electricity. I've watched the videos. I've seen the information. I've researched, and I am working on cultivating all of these hidden techniques that were taken away from us right back into my land and into yours too. We need copper, we need silver, and we can have electricity in our house. We get that right from the ground and right from the atmosphere. We can harness both cycles together to create volts that match what the electric company tells us that we have to purchase. Again, that's ridiculous, because I'm sure they don't purchase it. I'm sure they're harnessing it right from the atmosphere and right from the ground. And I'm sure that they're saying, how stupid that we are, that they have the ability to do that, but we don't believe that we have the ability to do that. But we do. We absolutely do. When you stop playing their game and you start rising above it, and you start realizing that this is a bountiful place that was created for us. No matter who you want to say put it together and put the pieces into place, whether it be a demigod or the creator himself, you need to realize that the first thought, the first emanation from the creator, as he was, or she was experiencing itself, right, formed Barbello. And Barbello is the first generated thought, and she's the first generated everything. She precedes everything and is in everything, good, bad, and indifferent. So that gives us all an opportunity to truly harness the Barbello, the original thought that lives within each and every one of us, and understand that with that knowledge and that power, that we can access all of the benefits and use them to our advantage. Not only can we harness electricity from the ground and the air, but we can also regenerate the ground's energy just by providing water, copper, and silver right into the ground. Because it actually, regenerates, it refills, it reignites. Like the passion comes back to life. And then as soon as we realize that we're not going along with the ride of the Anunnaki, the fallen angels, the reptiles, the Greys. And the Greys were a population of people that fell way too complacent and way too comfortable in being told what to do, being given direction and then following it, like having no critical thinking, like having no ability to discern. And over time, they lost everything. They lost their divinity, they lost their essence, they lost their ability to think for themselves, and now they're like simulated robots. Oh, wait, isn't that what the hierarch of today's world wants us to be? Do they want us to be the next round of Greys? Well, I'm not going to play that game, and I really hope you don't either, because you have way more substance and way more depth, way more position to play in the game that we call life. And in this game, it's very important that we remember who we are and where we came from, and that we hold divinity within us, and that we also have the ability to perceive, to evolve, to develop on a higher plane with every piece of us that we accept, we integrate, we perfect, and enhance. And when we carry the value and drop the burden, then that gives us even less weight holding us down and more volume or velocity, if you will, in order to grab the confidence and the bravery and the compassion and most definitely the love that lives within each and every one of us. Because remember, it was a loving creation, a loving emission of frequency that created Barbello. And Barbello created all of the other aeons, rather. Well, she also, had to play in that too, because, she was everywhere before everything and is involved in everything everywhere. Whether you hear her or you don't, she lives within you. She's a fragment of the Creator that gives us the ability to live, to breathe, to function, to embrace other forms of existence by how we choose to hold ourselves. And when we look at ourselves in the manner in which we were created, which is pure divinity, love and light, then we can certainly bring all of those feelings, sensations, and aspects of us to the forefront of this 3D body, and we could certainly facilitate how we share, send, and give life to the energy that we choose to carry with us. And I choose to carry forward motion and upward progress. And it took me a long while to be able to truly sit with myself and forgive myself for being trapped or caught up in the existence of just survival, because that happens to everyone on their journey of life, because this part of the world, this part of life, this part of existence is very difficult on its own to migrate through, to remember who you are, to stay balanced and harmonized. But when you have outside influences that are continually, throwing banana peels, if you will, underneath your feet, watching you, slide, and then seeing how long it's going to take before you fall, what they didn't realize, what they didn't count on, is that you could knock me specifically down as many times as you want, and I'll get up that many more times. And I'll always bounce back up. Right in front of you. I don't hide. I don't pretend. I don't shield. I've never caved. And I don't ever bend a knee. Ever. Not because I'm short. and I'm already low to the ground. But because I know that the power that lives inside of me is greater and grander than any 3D entity or perceived God. And I don't care what they call themselves, what their name is today, or what face that they wear, because they're all the same face. It's all the same energy. It's all from the same place. And they've been doing this for as long as the United States has been colonized. And they've been doing this before, but they ran into issues because, Rome didn't want to share. But you know what? There are places that we can go within us that illuminate and light our way, that show our divinity, that remind us that we are so much more worthy, and that we don't need to bend a knee, praise, or worship any other energy except the energy in which we were, where we came from, the Creator. We are initially, my words are getting twisted. We are Barbella's grandchildren. If the aeons are her children, her first creations, then we are her grandchildren, her second creation. I don't know what you think about heritage, but when I think about heritage, yes, I am Italian, Irish, and Dutch. And yes, I've developed quite a personality because of what I thought was my heritage. But when I dug deeper, I realized that those are only aspects of types of people. But the type of person started with Barbella. So no matter what country or place that you've come from, we are all related, and we are all one, and we are all emanations of the Creator, of the first thought of Barbella. And I don't know about you, but I'm very, very happy and relieved and pleased and filled with confirmation, because I always knew that what we had here going on, even from a very young age, was just wrong. When I would open my mouth and I would say things like in school when they were teaching us wrong, and I would say, no, wait, they labeled me as an over imaginative, disobedient, smart-mouthed child, and told me that I should be quiet and do what I was told, because asking questions would get me in trouble. Right. So I learned to ask questions, but to frame them in different ways. And then when they answered them, they were caught off guard, and the truth usually came out. And then they realized what they said and had to backtrack. But by then, the seed was already laid. But the seed already started within me. So all I did was add light and give it growth. And as I look around me today, and I see that now the lies are being twisted and changed yet again, all that's trying to do is keep you off balance, because the hierarchy, whatever name you want to give them, they realize that they're losing grip and they're losing hold, and that their terror, their train of terror, isn't going to last any longer than we allow it. So let's collectively get together and share our energy, love, light, and bright. And let's illuminate all the shadows and bring them all into the middle, and then tell them that their reign of terror is over and that they can go back to where they came, because they have no place here telling us that we're in shame, because we're not in shame. We're not at all. There's not one thing that will hold us in shame if we realize that there's a right and a wrong, a good and a bad, and there's a high and a low. And when we look toward the high and we eliminate the pull of the low, then all we do is elevate, gravitate, ascend, and our awareness becomes even that much more clear, giving us the ability to take those glory days of the 1800s, or whatever year you want to call them, when the fallen angels were still bound by the decisions that they made. We can bring them back. We can fix this wonderful world. Regardless of where you want to think we live, I know that we live in security. I know that we live in a place that was meant to provide us all the best while we struggle in human form, learning, remembering, gathering who we are and why we came. And that's to remember Source, to be able to embrace the best of both worlds. Spirituality in human form. And when we realize that spirituality is everything, it's not so hard, is it? It's not hard at all. As a matter of fact, it's our direction. Join me. Let's play a different song. Let's play one of interconnectivity. And when we look for the composers, we'll all add a line. So we will all be the ones to build this song. And then we will all be the ones to add our rhythm, tone, and pitch, so that the song that sings uplifts. And then we'll put all the bells back, and we'll heal everybody from the inside out, from the outside in. I cannot wait. That's like one of the first things I would do if I had the ability to lead the masses. I would right all the wrongs immediately before not one day went any further along. Join me. Let's start righting all these wrongs. Find your inner strength, your inner power, your inner light, and then enhance it. Cultivate it. Bring your light out for the world to see, because you are needed just as much as me. I love you. Blessed be.